The uncomfortable truth is this. Every time the economy collapses, someone quietly celebrates. Not on television, not on social media, in boardrooms, in private funds, in places you'll never see. Because while headlines scream panic, layoffs, and once-in-a-lifetime crashes, the same group walks out richer. Again, and again, and again. This isn't conspiracy, it's math. And right now, it matters more than ever. Because people are asking the wrong question. They ask, why does this keep happening? They should be asking, who is this built for? Let's start somewhere uncomfortable. When an economic crisis hits, most people experience it as chaos. Jobs disappear. Savings shrink. Prices rise. Everything feels random and unfair. But to the system itself, nothing is random. Crises don't break the system, they activate it. Think back to 2008, or 2020, or the inflation shock that followed. Different causes, same outcome. Small businesses die. Households sell assets at the worst possible moment. Governments panic. Markets crash. And quietly, ownership concentrates. Here's the part no one explains clearly. Economic crises are not just downturns, they are forced sales. When people lose income, they don't sell because they want to. They sell because they have to. Homes, stocks, land, businesses, debt. And when forced selling happens, prices fall below real value. That gap between value and price is where the same group lives. Who are they? Not the rich in general, not celebrities, not influencers, liquidity holders. People and institutions with one key advantage during chaos: cash, credit, and patience. During good times, leverage wins. Borrowing feels smart. Risk feels rewarded. During crises, leverage dies. Debt doesn't disappear when income does. Payments don't care about recessions. Interest keeps ticking. So the most leveraged players are forced to exit first. And who remains? Those who didn't need to sell. Or more accurately, those who could wait. Here's where the story gets uncomfortable. Crises don't reward intelligence, they reward positioning. You don't need to predict crashes, you just need to survive them without selling. That's it. Let's simplify the mechanism. Imagine two people. One owns assets using debt, the other owns cash. When prices fall 30%, the first person loses flexibility. Banks tighten, margin calls appear, loans get repriced, they sell. The second person sees discounts, same market, opposite outcomes. This isn't unfairness, it's structure, and the structure hasn't changed in over a century. In fact, it's become more efficient. During crises, central banks step in. They lower rates, they inject liquidity, they stabilize the system. But here's the irony. The liquidity doesn't reach everyone equally. It reaches balance sheets first, institutions first, markets first. Households get relief late, if at all. So while people are struggling with prices, asset values quietly recover. Stocks bounce, real estate rebounds, private equity goes shopping. The crisis does two things at once. It destroys income and inflates asset ownership. That's not an accident. That's design. Now let's address the myth. You're told crises are great equalizers, that everyone suffers. That's technically true, emotionally false. Everyone feels pain, but only some convert pain into ownership. Here's the uncomfortable math. If you already own assets, a crisis is a temporary valuation drop. If you don't, it's permanent exclusion. Because once prices recover, they don't come back down to fair. They overshoot.
which means every crisis raises the entry price for the future. That's why each generation feels locked out faster, not because they're lazy, not because they're bad with money, because the game resets upward after every collapse. Now zoom out. This is why the same institutions expand during downturns, why large funds grow while small players disappear, why monopolies quietly strengthen after recessions. Crises eliminate competition. A small business closes, a large one acquires market share. A homeowner defaults, a fund buys the property. A retail investor panics, a firm accumulates. No drama, no villain speeches, just transactions. And the system rewards whoever can transact when others cannot. Here's where people get distracted. They argue about causes. Was it bad policy? Greed? Mistakes? Those debates don't change outcomes, because regardless of cause, the mechanism stays the same. Forced selling transfers ownership. Ownership compounds power. Power shapes the next recovery. Now let's contrast hype with reality. You're told to buy the dip, but dips aren't available to people worried about rent. You're told volatility creates opportunity, but opportunity requires unused capital. You're told markets always recover, but recovery benefits owners, not sellers. The messaging sounds universal, the benefits are not. And this is why economic crises always help the same group, not because they're smarter, because they are positioned to wait. Now the risk. Each cycle increases concentration. Each recovery lifts fewer people. Each crisis leaves more behind. At some point, stability itself becomes fragile, because systems built on forced exits eventually run out of participants. And here's the final uncomfortable question. If crises reliably reward those who already own and punish those who don't, then what exactly are we calling economic recovery? Recovery for whom? And how many more cycles can this repeat before the math stops working for everyone?